Grand Rising, my peoples. Grand Rising, my peoples. I want to talk about the things I'm gonna be doing this real quick. Grand Rising, Grand Rising. Just got done grounding myself. Again, don't know how long this video gonna be. So, but to go ahead and get started, while it's in my head right now, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. I titled this thing the way I did because I knew some things early on, and I kind of want to share it. The reason being is because it's important for some that's looking for that kind of help, that just lost a child and carrying on, you know what I mean? What I noticed earlier on was that when all this stuff right here was going on, and I told y'all that my everything just flashed before me, like, it was like I knew subconsciously that this thing would last a long time. I knew it would last a long time. It just felt like that. Nobody really had to tell me that. You know what I mean? So at the time when all this stuff was going down, because I knew that it was going to be a ride, what I did was I tried to fast forward that ride. And at the time when it was, at the lowest, I'm not even going to lie to you, y'all, when it was the lowest, at the lowest points, that right there is when I started looking inside everything, anything like the worst, whatever it was that was the worst that I could find. I was looking at it because, see, you got to understand, I got that phone call when I was on my way home from work. I was on my way home from work when I got that phone call. So I didn't get a chance to see everything that everybody else seen that was a part of that incident, right? So, like I said, curiosity got the best of me. And because I had already had that news already, the fact that I had already had that news already, it was like, how much more worse could it get? That was me. I was looking at worst case scenarios at that point right there. You know what I'm saying? I was looking at worst case scenarios. I was like, how much more worse could it get with me, overlooking everything. So that's what I did, because I knew that at some point in time it would come back. I would have to visit this right here at some point in time. You know what I'm saying? So at that point, when I recognized that right there, and like I said, it was just something subconsciously, because at that time I was being guided by something, because not everything was meant for me to see at that time. You know what I'm saying? Not everything was meant for me to see at that time. So, the reason why I say that everything wasn't meant for me to see at that time is because, like I said, my son was face down on the ground, and I was about 8 inches from him. I couldn't even recognize him. So I couldn't even see him for real at that time the way he was. You know what I'm saying? And then when I got to the hospital, it was a reason why I couldn't see him there. Not totally the hospital fault. It was me too. Not totally their fault. But listen, the point that I'm trying to make is this right here. I knew that it was going to be some hard days, some dark days ahead. You know what I mean? So for me, it was like whatever it was that you just didn't have the pit in your stomach to look at or see for yourself, I went down that path. See, I want to see. I'm a deep diver. You know what I'm saying? I'm a deep diver. I want to know everything. So that's what I did, everything. You know what I'm saying? So I went down there and I grabbed the autopsy pictures. because now I get a chance to see everything from the rooter to the tutor. You know what I'm saying? And see, what they did and, everything. And I did that right there. And it was recommended not to do that. You know what I'm saying? I understand why they recommend not to do that. And I'm telling you the same thing. I don't really recommend you do that if you can't handle it. But nonetheless, I got a chance to see what this boy looked like and everything. You know what I'm saying? Because only people that seen that was the ones that were there. I didn't see that. You see what I'm saying? They got a chance to see this boy before they covered him up. And that right there sticks with them. You know what I'm saying? It sticks with them. They can't forget that either. So curiosity grabbed the best of me. And I said, well, I'm going to go down here and get these autopsy pictures. So I went down there to the Wayne County's, medical examiner's office and I ordered them. You know what I'm saying? But, and I did that right there. Cause see, once I done seen that right there, I done seen the worst. You know what I'm saying? I done seen the worst. Bring it on. Bring on. If I done already done went through the devastating news of hearing and knowing that my son is gone, you might as well bring on the rest of the news that's connected with it. In my eyes, come on with it. I'm already open now. So, hey, come on with it. Bring on the heat. That's the way I felt about it. Bring on the heat. So that's what I was doing. And so, yeah, I was fighting many battles. It was many battles I was fighting. I just wasn't fighting, mental battles and stuff like that. I wasn't just fighting those battles and grieving battles and stuff like that. I was fighting the system. Felt like I was fighting prosecutors that should have been working for me. I was fighting a whole lot. I was fighting the acceptance that my son was gone. I was fighting that. Yeah, I was fighting that. I fought that for a very long time. I had to recently just accept it because that was just the best thing for me to do, because not accepting this right here, even though we know what's going on, not accepting this right here mean only one thing. I mean, it's okay to grieve, but you can't stay there, because then you start hurting yourself. And it happened to me. You know what I'm saying? And not only me, it happened to his mom as well. You know what I mean? So you can't stay there in that. And I realize that you can't stay there in that pain and grief, even though it sticks around the majority of the time, all the time. And that stuff is around, even though you might not act like it, even though to other people it might not seem like it, but it's there. It's definitely there. But you can't stick in it. You cannot stick in. It's okay, like I said, every now and then to release, but to know what's going on and you stick in that, you're going to hurt yourself. That's the only thing you can do. That's the only thing you can do is you can hurt yourself. And that's the reason why, for me and it's just for me to mediate that, I started looking at all the heavy stuff first while it was heavy. You know what I'm saying? While stuff was fresh. You know what I'm saying? People, I can't look at that and all this other stuff. Hey, that was me. I was looking at everything. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to see everything. I wanted to know everything, because I knew down the line I didn't want it to come back up. And there's certain things that I didn't do. You know what I'm saying? Like let's just say, for instance, like I've been doing a lot of work, but it's just certain stuff that I haven't done and that I couldn't do. I give you one of them that I couldn't do. I couldn't even pick out a headstone for this boy. He don't have a headstone. Junior do not have a headstone right now. You know what I mean? And it's for the biggest end, for me, it's simply because I couldn't even find one. When you go to look for that stuff, man, it does something to you, man. That stuff run a rush through your body, and it make you, it just draw you back. You just close the whole page. You just close the whole thing, man. Man, look, I went looking for a headstone for this boy one day, and I was doing good for him. I thought I was doing good, and I went to go look for a headstone because I thought I felt good, good enough. And when I went to go look for that headstone, man, shoot, I don't know if I made it past the first page. I ain't playing. And it just brought something back, man. I closed that stuff right on out. And I still haven't even been to his grave. I still haven't been to Junior's grave yet. You know what I'm saying? So that right there is another, kind of like a challenge for me, so to say. That's one of the one of the rabbit holes that I didn't go down. You see what I'm saying? As of yet. Because I know in doing that right there, only thing that's going to do is run flashback to when I had to go through there the first time to put him in the ground. That's right. That's right. That's what it's going to do. It's going to run them flashbacks. You know what I'm saying? Them flashbacks. Them flashbacks, the road that I had to go, it feel like you're doing it all over again. And I wasn't ready to feel that. You know what I'm saying? I'd rather just do the work and everything and, keep it at that right there, and eventually one day I will go visit his grave. In fact, he had a little buddy that visited his grave one day, and he left a little rock out there, and he left some glasses with half of them crushed. You know what I'm saying? Symbolic to, what Junior went through. Like let me see, because I keep them in here. For these right here. For these glasses right here. These are the glasses Junior had on when he got into the accident. And he lost the lens over here, and he lost his other arm to it, which we got that right there in the house. But I keep these right here with me. These are the ones he had on when he passed. And I keep that right there with me as a keepsake. Keep something with me. And but the boy, what he did was he took the glasses. He had glasses that he used, and to kind of like describe. Wish I had a picture of it, man. I'll show y'all. You know what I'm saying? But he as a tribute to him, I guess that's what he did. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, so I just know that in the beginning stages, while you open, I'm gonna see for me if that worked. I'm gonna see for me if that worked, because like I said, next month it'll be a year for me next month, and I'll see if it pay off, man. I don't know. It's like I said, it's a hit or miss, man. This stuff don't come with no blueprint, man. This stuff don't come with no blueprint. Nobody, it just don't come with no blueprint. You work this stuff out family by family, person by person, or household by household. You know what I'm saying? There is no one size fit all to this stuff, man. It really ain't. It's a day by day thing. You know what I'm saying? And you handle this stuff the best way that you see fit. It might not look right in the eyes of other people, but who cares? Who cares? The thing about it is, you can't sit too deep down inside this right here to the point to where you start hurting yourself. Now, it done been people that have said this right here as well, because I have a TikTok page, and it's people over there that says that losing one child, even though you have other child, it's the same as losing your only child. And that right there could very well be true. It could feel that way. Because initially, when I lost Junior, I'm going to tell y'all something. It was almost like I didn't have no other kids. And I hate to say that, because that's not, that wasn't my intention, but that's the way it felt. It felt like when I lost him, it felt like I lost everything. You know what I mean? So when people say that, that's why I understand where they coming from. Because if you got many children, if you lose just one of them, it felt like you ain't. It almost feel like you in the world by yourself. And then you turn around and think, you say, wait a minute, you got other children. You know what I'm saying? And you really have to come back to grips with that right there, because you do something to yourself, then you sit this problem right here in your other children's lap, and the rest of the family, for that matter, are already grieving family at that. You know what I mean? So we got to be mindful. You know what I mean? And that was another thing, speaking of being mindful. The reason that it was a reason why I tell you to be mindful about certain things, because at that point, certain things is going to be a lot of stuff running through your head, but you also going to be having guides that are also going to be directing you. You're going to have some trigger points. There's going to be some times in there where you're going to have some trigger points where your guide is going to lead you to use discernment. You see what I'm saying? That's what it's going to allow you to do that right there. But you need to listen to that. Keep your ear open. It's a lot of stuff that you're going to be very sensitive to. You're going to be sensitive to a lot of stuff. And again, when I say sensitive, I'm not talking about nobody coming up and saying something to you. I'm just talking about spiritually, you're going to be sensitive to certain things. You know what I'm saying? I'm not talking about sensitive like emotion. You know what I'm saying? You're going to be sensitive to some things. It's just going to be a different world. Trust me. It's going to be a different world. Because, see, I'm going to tell you, when, like I said, when I lost Junior, mentally, it was like the other kids was okay. Especially after my daughter got out the hospital. You know what I'm saying? She was okay. But, you know, I always felt like my daughter was going to be okay, even in the moment when she was in the hospital. Nothing about my spirit said that, you know, we were going to lose her. My spirit told me that she would be perfectly fine. You know what I'm saying? But she did go through some stuff. She went through some stuff too. You know what I mean? And even to this day, she's still recovering from some of that stuff. I know. I could tell by the way she give me a hug. I could tell by the way I hug her. I could hear it. I could listen to her. You know, and I pay attention to it. I do. You know, every now and then she have her moments, and I got to deal with that. You know, and it depends on what you're doing, and that determines how you really gonna deal with that right there. See, when Junior passed, it was things that I had to explain to her. I had to tell her that stuff before she left the hospital, because she was expecting to see Junior when she got home. She didn't know nothing about none of this stuff. This her first go around with it. And so her first go around with it was her brother. And so now I got to explain this stuff to her before she leaves the hospital. Now, we hid it from her while she was in the hospital. She was in the hospital for about a week. Now, almost a week, or around about a week or so, something like that. Now, we hid it from her. Well, I ain't gonna say hid it from her, but we didn't tell her about it while she was in there. But we knew that by the time that it was time for her to come up out of there, she was gonna have to know. And I kid around with her a lot that when I told her about this, she really didn't believe me, and it shifted her energy so deep. It shifted her energy, man, and it just hurt it to really break that news to her like that. You know what I'm saying? But her being a kid, she understood, but not to the fullest extent that we as adults understand it. You get me? So by the time she got to the house, we had to do something to we couldn't just bring her home to an empty house with a bunch of sorrow and everything. Like I said, we had to make up stuff just to keep her happy. You know what I mean? So we went and dressed the balloons and dressed up the house with balloons and decorations and stuff and welcome home stuff. You know, had her a house full of company and stuff over there. And we have to do stuff. So indirectly, this right here kind of helped you. See, we were doing it for her, but indirectly it was helping us, because now, even if it was fake, we had to smile. We had to act like everything was good. You know what I'm saying? We had to like cheer up for her sake. And this right here is the reason why it be so important to protect the kids' energy, because they're going to be an energy source for you, whether directly or indirectly. And she became an energy source for us indirectly. We just didn't know that at the time. Me looking back at it and me talking to y'all now, I just figured that out now, just talking to you, just speaking right here, you know. But yeah, that right there was an energy source. You know what I mean? Because without that energy, the energy in that house was so low before she got there. And then when she got there, you had to set all that energy aside, because you don't want her to see you like that. So indirectly, you kind of helping yourself. You get what I'm saying? That's just, you know, the trade off for, you know, doing what you were doing. So yeah, That right there was in the beginning stages. This right here was before we got a chance to know anything. This right here was, shoot, like I said, within the first week. Yeah, this right here was like in the first week. This right here was going on. So yeah, I mean, everybody that was in that car was banged up. Everybody that was in that car was banged up, man. Everybody in that car was banged up. And we lost Junior in that process. And so now looking forward, you know, the girl is home. Now we didn't have the balloon release. The only reason why we had the balloon release later on is because we wanted her to be there. Again, you have to protect what she sees. A balloon release, fine. That was fine with me. You know what I'm saying? She loved balloons as well. She could be a part of that. I wanted her to be a part of that. That's fine. I really didn't want her to be a part of that funeral, but I had to. You know, I just couldn't let her stay at home. That was a no. You just had to go. But again, I did not let her go to the burial ground. See, at that time, I had to explain to her before the funeral where Junior went, because she wanted to know where Junior went. And I told her that he went to heaven. And she said, well, where's heaven? And I pointed up. I said, heaven is up. She said, well, how did he get there? See, these right here, and this right here was early on. We still grieving. We ain't had a chance to make funeral arrangements, nothing. How he get there? And I'm stuck. She just stomping me, man. She's stomping me. She's stomping me. I'm giving her the pretty lie. Excuse me. I'm not going to say the pretty lie. I'm giving her something that hopefully, but she catching it. She catching it. Every, you know, turn that I threw at her, she was on it. She was on it. She asked me, she said, I took off my glasses. She said, you can't see without your glasses. I said, no. She said, well, how is Junior gonna see without his glasses? How is he gonna get his glasses? She was asking how he gonna get his toys, stuff like that. Christmas time came around. She made a Christmas bag for him. Yeah, that's the stuff that we had to deal with. Yeah, and that right there was the first Christmas. That's why I was telling y'all, this string of holidays gonna come through. And it's touching if you got other kids. But that's what she did. Yeah. She made him a whole bag. She went and got her toys and whatever it was that she had. She made him a bag, tried to write her name. And listen, when I was telling her about this heaven thing and him going, you know, to heaven and stuff like that, I couldn't allow her to go to the grave site. I couldn't allow her to go to the grave site. I couldn't allow her to see that, because that would, I don't know what that would have did. I just didn't want her to see that. No. So what we did was we had her go a different route. You know what and she just never knew. She just never knew. You know what I'm saying? She just never knew what that right there was like. You know, seeing her brother go on the ground. And see, that was one of the reasons why I didn't want to really introduce her to even taking her to see his grave site. Because now, you know, that might raise another question, and that I don't really have an answer to. I didn't have an answer to those questions that girl was asking me. At the time, she was stomping me. That girl was stomping me with questions. And the crazy part was this right here. She kept asking me these questions because it wasn't making no sense. I was trying to butter it up. That's what I was trying to do. I was trying to butter it up. And she just wasn't going for it. She wasn't having it. She wasn't buying it. She wasn't taking the bait. None of that right there. You know what I mean? She wasn't doing it. She was asking me the questions that we would probably ask our parents, and they'd shoo us away because they didn't have the answers. And I just couldn't tell her I didn't know. I had to pacify. I was trying to pacify her feelings, because at that time, like I said, we were still dealing with it. We ain't know how to deal with it. So, you know, yeah, it was real tough. It was real tough. And then so now, like, you know, like I said, when the String of Holiday came around, we on our way out of town. She want to listen to music like for her, it's a fun thing. You know what I'm saying? She don't realize she's oblivious to the grief that's circulating in the vehicle at the time. So she just being her now. You know what I'm saying? She back to being a kid. And she want to believe that the music that we was listening to when Junior was here is still uplifting to us, you know, the way it was at the time, not realizing that we listened to this right here and it is tearing a hole in us because we got to hold back our tears. We can't let you see us crying. We can't, you know, listening to the music and stuff like that, man. We had to sit through that because of her. It made her happy. But for us, it was tearing us apart. So it was a lot of stuff that with her being around that we had to block. And like I said, indirectly, like I said, it probably helped us. That's why, like I said, it's important to protect them kids' energy. It's very important to protect those kids' energy. Yeah. Because you might have to rely on that energy. And I don't like to see her down because, see, if I'm already down and she get down, I can't supply her with the necessary emotional help that she need to the degree that she need. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I can. It's gonna drain you. I'm telling you, man, this stuff is draining, and you be finding yourself going to sleep in the wee hours of the day. You know what I'm saying? You be tired. You be drained out. You ain't even did nothing. You just be drained. You just be drained. You just tired. You don't feel like doing nothing. You don't feel like moving. And you just get real stagnant. You know what I'm saying? And it's very hard. You talking about pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Yeah, right. This right here, it's hard to pull yourself up out the bed, let alone put on some bootstraps and all that other stuff. And yeah, it's just a whole different other world that you don't want to deal with. That's why I said, man, the people that's dealing with this type of issue like this right here, these people dealing with a type of pain that you cannot mess with. You can't mess with it. I'm telling you. You can't mess with it. But like I said, my whole thing for this right here was just taking my hits early on. That's what I tried to do. I tried to take my hits early on in the beginning stages of this while the wounds were still open and fresh. You know what I'm saying? I tried to take the biggest brunt of whatever I could see at this point because I was wide open. For me, I knew subconsciously I was wide open to everything at that point. You know what I'm saying? The worst news, I had already took that. I already took the worst news on the chin already. That a parent could hear. Anybody could hear. You know, I had already heard that news. So I'm like, well, dealing with this situation, how much more worse can it get? Show me that too. Yeah, I want to see it. Absolutely. You know, and some of that stuff, all of it was tough to do. It was hard to look at autopsy pictures. It was hard to go in there and have to go to the medical examiner's office to identify him. That right there was very hard because somebody had to be strong. It was hard to have to get a phone call from the funeral home telling them that you have to come down here and you have to sign the paperwork and for them to be able to release him to us. And then we can do the funeral arrangements and boom, boom, boom. So now you go down there, you sign the paperwork. That stuff is like signing your child over. Like it's like it's over at that point, but you still don't want to believe it. You still don't want to believe it. And it's painful. Every stroke of that pen that you write your name down when you doing the signature, Every stroke of that pen hurts. Yep, it hurts. Man, you sign that stuff, you slide it right over. Yep. Hey yo, um, yeah, that right there, that hurt. Yeah. And then you gotta send down clothes. Man, there be so much stuff going on. Sometimes you ain't even got time enough to grieve. You know? Sometimes you ain't even got time enough to grieve. It be so much stuff going on in the process that you don't have time enough to grieve. Some of these parents, they have mental breakdowns because of this. End up in the hospital, you know, because you're not watching out for your health. This stuff called heart attacks, strokes. It'll cause all type of stuff. And you would never see it coming because you're not thinking about that. You're thinking about something else. You're thinking about something else. It causes depression up the ass, anxiety. You know, you just not, at that point in time, your vibration is so low that you could take on, that you are taking on all that stuff, which is keeping you low. That's what it's doing. Is all that stuff right there. Again, like I said, remember I told you I was wide open. So all that stuff right there was just kicking in. Everything, it was just kicking in. It was chomping away, just chomping at you, just chomping at you, just chomping at you. You know what I'm saying? You could withstand it for so long. And then you have a breaking point. I had a few breaking points. Some of them was viral. Some of them wasn't even on the internet. But I done had some breaking points. And we have breaking points. And the thing about it is, it's not to channel the breaking point at specific people, at people, period. It's to stay grounded and understand what's really going on, what's really happening. That's what I was trying to do. That's what I did. There wasn't no trying to. That's what I did. You know what I'm saying? Because like I said, it was times where inside this process, even through this right here, there were triggering points where I had to use better judgment. And see, it could have been really easy for me to use poor judgment and then use my son's death as a reason for using poor judgment. And I just wasn't going to put that on my son's life like that. I just didn't want to do that. And that was one of the things that kept me from using poor judgment in this moment like this right here. One of the things, and I want to really get that across to y'all, you know, because some people in moments like this, they use moments like this right here to be very bitter toward the very people that's trying to help them. You know what I'm saying? And it kind of pushes their support away. You know what I'm saying? So for me, one of the things that I did was to make sure that I did not do that, go that route, you know what I'm saying, and be bitter toward people, you know what I'm saying, get all belligerent toward people, you know, based upon my feelings, and then use my son's passing as a cover up as to why I'm feeling that way. You know what I'm saying? You gonna know the difference between somebody that's doing that right there versus somebody that's hurt. And there's people that really is hurt, but your spirit gonna show you the anger that they have in them. You know, that's something different right there. You know what I'm saying? It's one thing to be belligerent. It's one thing to be hurt because of a situation. It's another thing to be belligerent to people that's offering a helping hand to you. And I know many of people that have did that. And I understand it was because of your parent. I understand it was because of your close friend, your wife, your husband, you know what I'm saying? I get it. We get it. You know what I'm saying? But that anger and stuff like that I could have had toward other people, I was not going to direct it. That's why I'm saying that anger that you can have, because initially when you hear this stuff, you angry. That's the first, for some odd reason, when you hear somebody pass, and for the biggest end, the first thing that seemed to strike people is anger. I don't know why. But, you know, I didn't want to use that right there and then set my son's death on top of it as an escape route. Nah, I wasn't doing that. No. I wasn't going to do that right there. I wasn't going to put that. My son wasn't even in the ground. So I had to manage. That right there was one of the ways that I used to manage my emotions and feelings and stuff like that, by not reacting a certain way to certain people, you know what I'm saying, in triggering moments. You know what I'm saying? And it could have been well justified too. It could have been well justified. Somebody pulled me out of pocket. And even in that moment right there, I still use better judgment. Yeah. I still use better judgment. So, yeah, that's, it's a lot of things, man. It's many steps that you have to go through. So now we down to, you know, the day of the service. You know, making sure everybody is dressed well, making sure that you got the door open, you waiting for that car to pull up, baby. It's real when that right there happened. That car done pulled up. Yeah, the tears get to forming. Everything about to start to get to rolling. This stuff right here is like a dream, and you steady pinching yourself, and you can feel these pinches right here. So it ain't just like no dream, but it's kind of like is, but it ain't no dream. And yeah, you get the ball rolling on this stuff right here, man. Hey, you get the ball rolling. Coming in there before the service and all that other stuff, and you got to go through all that viewing and all that other stuff, man. When I went through that right there, it was like I was looking at a process or something, man. It was something that I was watching that it seemed like, wait a minute, this right here is like a system or something. It was like, this right here is a system. Something is, you know, something. I ain't talking about the services. I'm not talking about the services, because the services that was offered was perfect. It was great. I had excellent service. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about just the feeling, just funerals, period. You know what I'm saying? Just the feeling of it. It's just something just be feeling off. Something feel off about it. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's doing something to your mind. You know what I'm saying? You know, it's kind of like dressing. Okay, so y'all know how, and this right here might be a poor example, but it's kind of like when they say back in the day, they'll pull the biggest slave out in front of everybody and make an example out of them. And then that right there kind of like did something to their minds or something like that. When they seen the biggest person get done like that, it was like, man, anything can happen to anybody. It was like to show you that you ain't bigger than everybody. That's the message that they were probably trying to send, more than likely, right? Well, it's kind of like that. You know what I'm saying? When you go to these services, it's kind of like looking at that person like, and it does something to your mind. It does something to your mind when you have to look at that time after time, because guess what? When that service is far over with and done with, guess what? You still thinking about it. Yeah, you still thinking about that right there. That coffin closing plays in your head all the time. You know what I'm saying? And that coffin, if you stayed around like I did, I stayed around. I watched them put my son in the ground. I actually watched the coffin lower inside the ground. I stayed there. I watched them pour the dirt on my son in that grave. That's what I mean by, you know, looking at the hard stuff. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about I was wide open at that point. I was wide open. I had already seen the worst of the worst, because I got his autopsy pictures after his service. I got his autopsy pictures after his service. I didn't get his autopsy pictures before his service. I ain't know what he looked like before then. But at that point, before I got his autopsy pictures, you know, I had already seen him at the medical examiner's office. I was wide open. So because I was wide open, I said, well, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to go the whole ride. Like I said, I didn't carry him, but I sure watched him go in that ground. I literally watched that coffin get lowered in the ground. In fact, I recorded it. A lot of my family members didn't see that. Some of the people that was in the family car, they didn't see that. They didn't see the dirt getting poured on them. I did. I recorded it, you know, and I watched that right there. It was hard to watch, but I was wide open at the point. So after I done seen it, you know what I'm saying, a time or two or something like that right there, you know, after you look at something, the more you look at it, it seemed to have less effect on you. You know, and that right there was just for healing purposes for me. That was just one of the methods that I was trying to use to try to hurry up and heal and I just figured that if I just looked at it enough, the more I looked at it, the more I get used to it. And, you know, it wouldn't bother me as much as if I just looked at it once every now and then get put in a low area. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I watched that right there a couple of times. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, just going through my videos, I watched the boy, you know, play around in certain videos that I have. You know, I look at those videos and stuff every now and then, you know, to kind of like keep myself centered. And if there's anything that needs to come out, let me go ahead and flush that on out so I can give myself another month or two or a couple days or a week or whatever it is. You know what I mean? You got to find different methods to get up out of that right there. And those are just my methods, was to go the hardest way that I could see at that time. Because like I said, if you got everything already open, let's do it. Let's go all down, all off and through there. That's me. I'm like that right there on many different levels. If you're already doing it, let's go ahead and, let's just go ahead and do the damn do. You know what I mean? And so that's where I was. So hopefully a year later, a few months later, you know what I'm saying? I could be able to cope with this right here a little better, man, because something had to shake. Something had to shake. I had to be able to look at this right here a little better. For real. Something had to shake. I couldn't keep feeling like that. Something had to shake, Jack. You know, and the situation at hand wasn't going to change. That situation was solid. So the only thing that could change at that point was me. Subconsciously, I knew that. Was I ready to change at the time? Probably not. Not early on. Heck no. I didn't know how. I didn't know where. I was looking for places. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know where to turn to. I was looking for answers. I was looking for relief. I was all over the internet. I couldn't find nothing. For relief. You know what I'm saying? And therapy, grief therapy and all that stuff went right out the window, man. I ain't even give that even a shot, to be honest with you. I ain't even give grief therapy a shot because for me, in my mind, you was going to have me coming in there repeating the same stuff over and over and over. And probably not really offering those solutions really for real. And see, for me, that's how I started to get assisted with at least some of my solutions by doing this right here, getting on here, talking to y'all, you know what I'm saying? Using this right here as therapy, listening to other people. You go over here on my TikTok, man, and read some of them comments over there. It'd be like, wow. People have lost their whole families. It's people that have lost their only child. It's people that have lost family members 1 week, lost them another one, a close family member the very next week. I'm talking about some like dominoes back to back to back. Some of these people don't even know how they living. Some of these people don't know nothing. They ready to end it all. Some of these people is ready to end it all. And I didn't know that it ran that deep. I really did. I just got on here saying what I was saying. You know what I mean? I just got on here talking me. I just got on here, you know, just expressing my recovery process. And in that process right there, a whole bunch of more other people started speaking up. They didn't have nowhere to go. To be able to get this stuff out. You know, and I didn't have nowhere. So I just kind of like created on my own little lane and just started talking about this stuff to other people. Yeah. That's what I started doing. And in that process, you learn. For me, it's bad, but it could have been worse. And like I said, to me, the only thing worse than losing a child is losing another one. it's some of them people over there in that group over there on my TikTok, man, that done lost multiple children at the same time. It done been people that done lost them 1 month. I mean, one day, and then a few months later, they done lost another one. I'm talking about them stories is deep. Sometimes it got me thinking that sometimes mine ain't even worth complaining about, because I understand the situation a little bit more better now. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, over time, I've been doing work using these methods, little bits and pieces here and there, just seeing what worked. Because again, like I said, there is no blueprint to this stuff. There is nobody to highlight and say, if you do this right here, you're going to feel better. No, everything is trial and error, is test, and it's whatever worked for you. Because like I said, it was even at one point in time, I talked to psychic mediums or I listened to psychic mediums. And that right there, avenue, helped me the best. It was talking to the psychic mediums that helped me the best, because then I had at least somewhere where I could start. You know what I'm saying? It gave me a starting ground. Nothing against the religious organizations or nothing like that, but I just couldn't find my starting ground there. I couldn't hear nothing religious. All that stuff was just, I couldn't hear nothing religious. It just, period. I just couldn't hear. It was coming in, but it wasn't making no impact. It wasn't making no impact. I needed something that was going to make an impact. Because like I said at the beginning, I was mainly looking for answers. I was very angry at God. I'm not going to lie. It wasn't up until recent to where I had to start looking with a different set of eyes, because I'm going to tell you something, throughout this process, a lot of this stuff going to really fall back on perception. Your healing is going to fall back on perception, because that's what you're going to need for the biggest end. You're going to, when that, I ain't going to say for the biggest end, but as a big tool, perception is going to be one of those tools that you are going to need readily. You know what I'm saying? By your hand side. You know what I'm saying? Because your perception and the way that you look at certain things could be responsible for the reason why you still in grief, or the reason why we still in grief. Because if you change your perception on the way that you see that same situation, then you might see a different outcome, and it'll help you better, lift some of that weight up off your chest, man. I'm telling you, you got to find different methods, and you're going to have to try. You gotta try. The effort gonna have to come from you, and it's gonna come from you first. I've been doing it. Like I said, when this string of holidays come around, I see how that work. And like I said, it don't mean that it worked for everybody. Because that's tough. It's people that's years in that still can't see no way out of this. And I get it. Because I don't have a definite, road to the finish line. I don't have a definite road to the finish line, but I can tell you the methods that I use and what I do. And, oh man, it felt like something was just crawling on me, but it wasn't. It's just different methods. Different folks, different strokes, or different strokes, different folks, whatever. You know how the saying go, But, yeah. It's just going to be, I know in the first couple months, it's going to be real tight, though. It's going to be hard to see anything outside of what you are already going through. It's going to be hard to see anything on the outside of what you are already going through. And it's going to be hard to hear anything outside of what you're hearing. And that right there, that part right there, the hearing part, pay attention to that right there. I'm telling you, I keep on saying this because I can't stress it enough. Throughout this whole entire process, pay attention, period. Pay attention to what you're listening to. Pay attention to what's going on up here. Pay attention to your whole surroundings. Your whole surrounding, you pay attention as much as you can. I know where your mind at. I know it. Trust me, I know where your mind at. But I'm going to need you to stretch that just a little bit more further. You're going to be surprised. Your mind going to be blew away by the stuff that you see with your new set of eyes. I'm telling you, it's going to blow your mind. I'm telling you, it's going to blow your mind. Yeah. But anyway, I got to get ready to go. I ain't going to hold y'all too much more longer. Hey, Uncle Ronnie. YouTube, check me out. And check me out over there on TikTok as well. Let me see. Something real quick. My TikTok is Ronnie 84 underscore at Ronnie 84 underscore. Okay, I get with y'all later. And share this right here, y'all. Share this, comment, and like and subscribe, man. All that stuff. Do that right there, y'all. Do that so this right here can reach people, man. So this word can get out, man. Help me do that right there. If y'all want to help me do that right there. Appreciate it. Y'all have a good one.